Like Planning Commission meeting, sorry. Okay, can we all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, first on our agenda tonight is we're going to need 3 different motions because we have 3 sets of minutes to vote on. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes for the August 27th work session?
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion carries.
And do I have a motion that the August 27th regular meeting minutes be approved?
So be it. So move, I'm sorry. So move. Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion carries.
And our September 24th regular meeting minutes. Do I have a motion that those minutes be approved?
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion carries.
Okay. All right, on our agenda tonight, we have the proposed text amendments for the solar facility. So we have a presentation from staff. We also have our packets.
Madam Chair, members of the board, commission, we'll make you the board, that's fine. Before we start this, we actually have to determine our meeting dates for the November and December meetings. We thought it would be November 19th, but there's a conflict with another group, both the 3rd Thursday of November and December. So I'll let Ms. Zeck take it from there.
Thank you, Mr. Fincham. Madam Chairman, members of the commission. So staff is suggesting either Tuesday or Wednesday of the same week. So it would be November 17th or 18th or December 15th or 16th. And we'll leave it up to the commission.
Okay.
Is your mic on, Mr. Weber? Thank you.
I'll take Wednesdays, but I can't do Tuesdays.
Wednesday's fine for me.
Wednesdays are difficult for me, but you know, I could try.
Right now, we feel like we're definitely going to have a November meeting. December is kind of up in the air. So we can look at that at November if you.
So you're talking about
So it would be November 17th would be the Tuesday and 18th would be the Wednesday.
so
Trouble,
Y'all-
okay, Carol.
y'all are suggesting Wednesday then?
Well, the trouble with me is I have the lake meetings, which also got moved, okay? And they got moved to the 9th and the 17th, so I definitely can't do the 17th. That's why I said I could do Wednesday, the 18th.
So we're talking about November 18th and what about December?
It would be December 15th or 16th.
You can hold off
Mhm.
on designating a December meeting until next month if you want to.
Well, I think that's a good idea, Carol.
Mhm.
Okay.
Hold off till next.
All right, so do I have a motion for, to change the November, I think it's set for 19th right now, meeting to November 18th? Same time, 7 o'clock, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
I would make that motion.
Meeting to the regular meeting to the 18th of November. Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. We will be meeting Wednesday, November 18th.
Okay.
Okay, Madam Chair, members of the commission, you have before you tonight staff's final draft of 4 text amendments related to the proposed solar regulations for discussion with the Planning Commission. The last meeting, I advised the commission that I still had some more cleanup work to do. I still needed to incorporate the amendments for the facilities that were 20 megawatts or less. So the packet that you have behind, in front of you, represents staff's efforts to finish editing and formatting the original set of regulations, which was the 20 megawatts or greater than 20 megawatts, incorporating 20 megawatts or less. In evaluating this, we decided that it made more sense to move all the definitions to Article 2 because there were definitions in both sets of regulations. It just made sense to incorporate those into one set of amendments under Article 2. And then you've also got the TXT 20, which would be the development standards for the minor solar facilities. Instead of repeating a lot of information from the greater than 20 megawatts, we simply tried to cross-reference the major solar facility regulations where we thought it was applicable. That, in a nutshell, is staff's efforts, taking into comments that I've heard from commission members, talking and working with industry representatives. This is the complete package that providing the commission tonight for you all to discuss further and proceed as you see fit. You also have the draft overlay district maps that would designate the transmission and distribution lines to which the major solar facilities would apply.
Well, I would like to, first of all, I'd like to recommend you and staff for putting this package together. It is extremely complex. It takes a great deal of understanding, and we're the newbies up here as far as it comes to these solar documents. But I'll tell you, it's very, very impressive. I think what's put together here is fairly clear to understand, and I'm happy with what I see.
Madam Chair, if I may, also kudos to you and everyone, because Lisa probably did most of the work, to be honest.
She did.
But kudos to you for pulling all of this together, taking into consideration the comments or concerns that commission members had, trying to, I won't say appease, but to make it more desirable for the industry to come in, putting it all together and getting it together in the manner in which you did. I tip my hat to you, all of you. It's a job well done as far as I'm concerned.
Great job.
I'd like to piggyback on that. Y'all did a great job giving us information about the solar, and really appreciate it.
Now, Michael, is this one the text that has already been published?
We have not published anything yet. Okay, this is the last working draft. Okay, once we've discussed it tonight, we can make changes. You can advertise for public hearing. You can advertise the public hearing on the documents as presented to you. I've also forwarded the draft to the county attorneys for them to do their review. I'm sure there'll be some cleanup as part of that, some technical changes. you know, protect the county's interest in this. But I think I'm comfortable with this being the basis of going forward from here, and incorporating those changes.
Okay, so
I
if you,
don't,
if you get other changes back, Michael, from the county attorney or whatever, does that mean that we're going to have to delay allowing this out to the public?
I'll let Chris or Vivian, I think they would be more technical in nature. So I mean, unless they're very substantial changes, I would think they'd be more technical in nature, but I would defer to Chris and Ms. Giles to answer that.
Okay.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. This is Chris. And Mike's. Yeah, I agree with Mike. Barring some unforeseen major change that would really shift the direction of the text amendment, we shouldn't have to republish, even if we make edits here and there. In fact, I mean, as part of this process, we fully anticipate some degree of changes to occur to take into account what we hear in the public hearings.
All right, so it sounds to me like if the public comes up with some comments, we may have to make some changes, but that would be after it's gone out.
Yeah, and again, depending on those changes, for example, you can make your regulations more restrictive. You can clarify your regulations, but from an advertising perspective, you can't, for example, expand your regulations beyond what was advertised. So clarifications, modifications that perhaps are more restrictive, you can do that without re-advertising. And again, it depends on the number. If you end up with 20 or 30 different modifications, then just because of the sheer number, you may want to go back to public hearing again.
Right. The only reason I say that is because we were very, very fortunate that staff brought us out to that one place out there in Lake Anna. And I had to be in all honesty, and we were there. I was caught off guard a little bit, just realizing the size of a 20 kilowatt facility. And I mean, you know, we talked about this and that, and so until you actually walk out there and look at how much land, now don't get me wrong, those panels are as quiet as little babies. They don't make any noise at all. And we walked next to the transformers and they don't whistle. We didn't hear anything. And based on the one that's out there in the Lake Anna area, I mean, even the screening, we had a hard time when we even first turned the main corner going right to the place. You could barely see anything. Now, if we can do that kind of development within Caroline County, I think the community as a whole will be very, very happy with it. All right. The biggest thing came up, and when we walked back, was actually the size of the amount of kilowatts that you want to allow for the county. And that just became an issue. I know you said something to me like, well, you can always change it before you send it on to the Board of Supervisors, and that's fine. I just don't want this to get lost in the shuffle, because I know Bob, Purcell, and myself, when we looked at it, and we looked at 800, the three of us just sat there talking, okay? Not making any votes, not making any decisions, just sitting there talking. And we kind of felt that, you know, 800 is a lot of land disturbance, okay? And even if it's done perfectly, the way we want it done, okay, it's still a lot of land disturbance. So that would be the only area that I'm concerned with. All the rest of the documentation I have in front of me, I've read through it 63 times, okay? And I have no issue with what I have here in front of me. I would gladly say that everything here except for the total number of kilowatts for the county is the only issue I have. Thank you, Michael.
I have a question. We had a map at one time. Are we still pretty much sticking to everything being west of Fredericksburg Turnpike?
Pardon? Could you repeat?
We had a map at one time, maybe I have it in my things here. All these facilities are pretty much west of Fredericksburg Turnpike.
For the most part, that's correct. Now, remember, your minor facilities are not necessarily tied to the overlay district. So a 20 megawatt facility could be located, and I'll just point, okay, out in here. Because it's 20 megawatts and under, it's not subject to the limitations of the overlay district.
Okay.
So the overlay district are for your facilities greater than 20 up to 150. Less than, or 20 and less, are not tied to the overlay district. So it could be wherever there is a transmission or distribution line that has the capacity for a facility to be connected at that location. It's still a special exception permit, and it will be subject to the standards articulated in TXT 20-2020. Okay, so you still review it as a special exception use. You still have the ability, based on where that application is made, to look at the impacts of that proposed facility at the location they're requesting. And based upon the special exception permit standards, as well as these supplemental standards, you still have the ability on a case-by-case basis to say yes or no.
And how many acres approximately are the 20-watt facilities, megawatts, excuse me, facilities?
The figures I've heard are anywhere between 7 to 10, 7 to 12 acres per megawatt. So 200, plus or minus 10, maybe on average is what you would see.
And the facility in Louisa was around 20 megawatts?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Yeah, that was probably close to 200 acres. So it can be anywhere in the county then?
20 megawatts and less.
Can be anywhere in the county.
Yes, ma'am. Now, there's still limitations as well. We say anywhere in the county. They've still got to connect to the utility grid. So your smaller projects, you're probably not going to see those projects located too far away from a transmission or distribution line, simply because they've got to construct that interconnection to the grid. So the more that you have to construct, the more expensive it's going to be. So there's some limiting factors there in terms of where you would see those facilities. I pointed to this big hole right here in the southeastern part of the county. In all likelihood, you wouldn't see a significant number of projects in that area, just because there aren't any major distribution lines down that way.
Well, also it means that based on what we were told out at the site, their biggest problem is the mere fact that they need the high-speed internet.
Mm-hmm.
So therefore, if they're going to go out there in Never Never Land, Carol, they're going to have to bring the high-speed internet to wherever that is. And that is, without the high-speed internet, there is not a lot of things that are going to be built. That's the truth of it. They told us some of these, in fact, the one building they have there, right, Bob? What was the name of the building? Okay. It literally just contains all of the high-speed internet equipment that goes into their main storage areas. So,
yes, and they had tried other means, satellite, and some other means of delivery, and it just wasn't satisfactory.
Right.
And I think we had something on here too about not allowed in resource-sensitive areas. Correct?
Yes,
It's in
ma'am.
here somewhere.
There's a hierarchy of standards, okay, built into the regulations.
And those still count, every 20 kilowatt facility still counts towards the overall total for the county, correct?
It can't, if you remember, there's two caps. There's one cap for the greater than 20 megawatts, and there's one cap proposed for 20 megawatts or less. As drafted, it would be 800 for the over 20 and 200 megawatts for the 20 and under.
Right, correct, okay, thank you.
And that does not take into consideration if by chance you got an application from a power company like Dominion, like we saw over in Louisa, okay? They actually built that facility, okay? So a utility company, Dominion or corporation, could actually come in right now under our regulations. We allow utility generation as a special exception use in the Rural Preservation District. So in theory, Dominion could file tomorrow for a project under that provision of our zoning ordinance, irrespective of these regulations. These regulations are basically for your third-party developers who either build these facilities and then sell them to Dominion or a power company, build these facilities and sells the energy to the power company, or builds these facilities and sells the energy to another end user, like an Amazon or something like that.
What was those caps again? Is 800 on the minor, 800 megawatts on the minor?
No, 200 megawatts on the minor, the 20 or less.
And 800?
800 on 20 up to 150.
Okay.
And at the end of the day, depending, you can always, it's easier to expand or increase your number than it is to reduce it later on. So if you get up to the 800 and you decide, hey, this is okay, it's working out well, we want to go to 1,000, then it's easier to expand than be at 1,000, say, oh wow, we're being overrun, we're having impacts here that we didn't anticipate, and then try to cut back to say that 800 figure.
That's specifically my concern, Mike, is to me the fact that I don't want us to go too far in the very beginning until we actually feel comfortable and say, gee, that didn't hurt anybody. The farmers didn't protest and burn all their crops down, and guess what? It worked. So I'm in full favor of, and as Micah said, when we pass it on to the Board of Supervisors, we have the rights at that time to say we would like to change, instead of it being 800, we'd like it to be whatever number that the board, that we as a group agree to. So, I'm okay. You know what, Dad, Mike, I was a little confused when you said, if Dominion comes in and wants to do a solar facility, don't they still have to come for a special exception to us?
Yes, they do.
Okay, that's all.
Utility generation facilities are specified as a special exception use in the RP district. So they would still have to go through the SE process.
Thank you very much.
Back to the 800 megawatts, that would encompass probably 7,000 to 8,000 acres possibly.
Yes, sir.
Okay, now how many areas do we have with that type of acreage, roughly? I mean,
well,
that's a lot of land.
it's a lot of land. There's probably 4 to 5 assemblages of land within the overlay district that you could theoretically piece together enough properties to have a project of that size. Now, if you're looking at a smaller project, you know, say in the 50 to to 80 megawatt range, there's probably much more land in theory that's available within the boundaries of the overlay district that you could get a project, or you could assemble enough land to get a project. Remember also under this, if you have an if you have a project and you've got a couple of parcels outside of the overlay district, then you can request a zoning amendment to include those parcels. So we understand that you may not be able to get your total acreage assemblage within, say, the 2-mile buffer, but we've put provisions in there that you can seek a zoning amendment to include that additional land. And I think what we're trying to do is focus within the buffer, understanding that you may not be able to be entirely confined to that buffer.
Right. So the odds of having an 800 megawatt are very small.
A single 800 megawatt, no, because we're capping the total at 800. Right. The largest one that you would see would be 150. Oh, and that ties into state regulatory programs, that number.
Right.
Mr. Fincham, is there any cost, excuse me, any cost to the county for any phase of this? For example, the registered landscape design professional or an arborist who comes out and makes a determination of what plant life to make. Is there anything that is going to cost the county money involved in this at all?
Not that we won't get reimbursed for. So the arborist, for example, that's entirely incumbent upon the applicant to provide, to have that service performed and provide that information to us in the form of a landscape and buffering plan. The one area where there might be some expense would be in the land disturbance phase of the project. We have one environmental inspector who obviously is not going to be able to spend 8 hours a day, 5 days a week on a construction site. So we've built into the regulations, they're responsible for our costs that we incur to either hire another inspector or a third party.
Very good, thank you.
And the industry understands and accepts that you know, they understand that need.
Let's move it along, Mike.
I'm fine.
The train is grinding to a stop.
It's time to move the train. Please, let's move the train.
So the next thing you need from us is permission to have public hearing.
Yes, ma'am. If the commission is ready, that would be the appropriate motion. And you don't have to make a motion on each one individually.
I would make a motion that we submit this out to the public at this time.
For the November 18th meeting?
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. November 18th it is.
Good job, Mike.
Okay.
Appreciate it. Appreciate all the hard work. Good job, Lisa.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Good
Anything
job, Angeline.
There's still one line that I gave her she hadn't been able to fix.
But at least we know where the flag was tonight.
No, she's awesome. I think we're done.
I think we can make a motion to
Anything
adjourn.
else? No more any and all matters?
No, we just-
No, ma'am.
Okay. What's the protocol? I'm gonna be cutting it tight on November 18th. What's
Okay.
the protocol for the chair to be a couple minutes late?
That's fine. If we go by that clock, it doesn't always work, so.
But, you know.
Mr. Weaver.
Says he's gonna be here, so.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, Mr. Weaver
sir.
can start the meeting if necessary, and then turn the chair over to you when you arrive,
Okay.
if necessary.
All right. So we have a motion to adjourn?
I make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Aye.
See you in November.
Mike, I want to say to you that